The monitor screamed, not a beep, not an alarm, but a single, relentless, high-pitched tone that sliced through the sterile air of the operating room like a scalpel made of sound. A flatline. On the screen, where Lily Morrison's 8-year-old heart should have been dancing with life, was a flat, green, unforgiving line. It was the sound of a promise breaking. My name is Dr. Evelyn Reed, and I was supposed to be the one in control. Cardiac surgery is a symphony of precision, and I am the conductor. But in that moment, the music had stopped. The only thing I could hear echoing over that horrific tone was a little girl's voice, soft and laced with innocent fear. Promise me you'll wake me up. It had started just 24 hours earlier, in the deceptively sunny room 407 of St. Jude's Children's Hospital. Lily wasn't like other patients. While most kids her age were afraid of the dark or monsters under the bed, Lily was a tiny philosopher, acutely aware of her own fragility. Her world was colored with drawings of galaxies and a well-loved, threadbare stuffed rabbit named Patches. I had walked in with my usual pre-op confidence, my charts and statistics a shield against the emotional chaos of our world. Her parents, Sarah and David Morrison, wore the familiar look of terrified hope. But Lily, she just looked curious. "Dr. Reed?" she had asked, setting down her blue crayon. "When I go to sleep for my new heart? What if I dream for too long?" I gave her the standard, reassuring spiel about anesthesia and how we'd be watching her every second. But she saw through it. Children always do. She fixed her big hazel eyes on me, and her lower lip trembled just slightly. "My friend Emily said sometimes people don't wake up. Promise me you'll wake me up. Promise." The request was so simple, so devastatingly pure. It wasn't a question about medical procedure. It was a plea for certainty in an uncertain world. In that moment, I wasn't Dr. Reed, the chief of pediatric cardiothoracic surgery. I was just Evelyn, a person being entrusted with the most precious thing imaginable, a child's faith. I knelt beside her bed, the cold linoleum floor a stark contrast to the warmth of the moment. I took her small hand in mine. "I promise you, Lily Morrison, I will be right there when you wake up. You have my word." And then she did something that would later feel like a prophecy. She reached over to my scrub pocket, pulled out a surgical marker, and drew a small, lopsided heart on the back of my hand. "So you don't forget," she whispered. The surgery began with clockwork precision. My team, Bashamshire Karen, steady as a rock, and Dr. Martinez, our unflappable anesthesiologist, was a well-oiled machine. The initial incisions, the careful dissection, the connection to the heart-lung bypass machine, it all proceeded exactly as it had 100 times before. For the first 3 hours, we were architects rebuilding a broken masterpiece. Then, without warning, the architecture collapsed. It wasn't a slow decline, it was a tsunami. One moment, her heart was beating meekly under my fingers. The next, it was a flooded engine drowning in its own blood. A previously undetected microscopic vascular malformation had ruptured, a freak occurrence, a 1-in-a-million catastrophe. "Suction! I can't see the field!" My voice was calm, a stark contrast to the adrenaline screaming through my veins. The organized symphony descended into cacophony. Blood pooled faster than we could suction it away. Lily's blood pressure on the monitor plummeted. "Her pressure's crashing, 60 over 40!" Karen's voice was tight, controlled, but I heard the underlying tremor. "Give me 4 units of O-negative, now! Push the pressors! Max dose!" I commanded, my hands moving on pure instinct, trying to find the source of the bleed in a sea of red. The flatline tone began. That sound. It's a sound that doesn't just enter your ears. It vibrates in your teeth. It claws at your soul. It's the sound of failure. For a fraction of a second, my hands froze. The little heart drawn on my hand seemed to pulse under my surgical glove. "I promise you." "Charge to 50!" I yelled, my voice cracking for the first time. "Clear!" Lily's small body jolted on the table. The line on the monitor jumped, stuttered, and then flatlined again. Silence. The silence was worse than the tone. "Again! 100! Clear!" Another jolt. Nothing. The seconds stretched into eternity. The team looked at me. In their eyes, I saw it, the grim acceptance, the unspoken thought that maybe this was it. We had lost her. I looked down at the small, still form on the table. I saw the little girl who believed strawberries were a perfect food. I saw the marker heart on my hand, This was not a statistical probability. This was Lily, and I had made her a promise. "Get me the ECMO cart, now. We're not stopping." My voice was low, but it carried a finality that brooked no argument. It was no longer a medical decision. It was a vow. Dr. Martinez looked at me, his eyes wide. "Evelyn, it's been too long. Neurological function. Get the cart." I didn't look at him. My entire world had narrowed to Lily's heart and my two hands. We were going to put her on ECMO, a heart-lung bypass machine. It was a Hail Mary, a desperate attempt to oxygenate her blood and rest her heart, giving us time to find and fix the leak. It was a procedure fraught with its own risks, especially after prolonged cardiac arrest. The next hour was a blur of focused frenzy. We cannulated, we connected, we fought. It was a brutal, physical battle against time and biology. Sweat dripped from my brow onto my face shield. My back screamed in protest. But the thought of facing Sarah and David, of having to explain that I couldn't keep my promise, fueled a reserve of strength I didn't know I had. Finally, the ECMO machine whirred to life, taking over the work of Lily's heart and lungs. The flatline was still there, but now it was a problem we were actively circumventing. We had created a precarious bridge to tomorrow, but the leak was still there, a tiny, elusive trickle. We searched, minute after agonizing minute, and then I saw it. Not where I expected. It was hidden behind a primary artery, a minuscule tear. It wasn't a complication from the surgery, it was a congenital time bomb that had chosen this exact moment to detonate. I repaired it with sutures finer than a human hair. My hands did not shake. The immediate crisis was over. But the war was far from won. Lily was alive, but barely. She was on maximum support, her own body utterly still. The next 48 hours would be critical. The promise had evolved from "I will wake you up" to "I will bring you back." I spent those next 2 days in the ICU. I barely slept, catching only moments of fitful rest in a chair next to her bed. I became a fixture. Nurses brought me coffee. I explained everything to the Morrisons, their faces etched with a new kind of agony, the agony of waiting. I talked to Lily. I told her about the weather outside. I read her the get well cards from her class. I even told her about Patches the rabbit, who was guarding her room. I kept reminding her of the promise. "I'm here, Lily. I'm waiting. You need to hold up your end of the deal now." On the second night, as I was half dozing, my head resting on the edge of her bed, I felt it. The faintest movement. My head snapped up. I looked at her hand. Nothing. I thought I had imagined it. Then a minute later, her index finger twitched. Then again. My heart stopped. I leaned in close, my face inches from hers. "Lily? Sweetie? Can you hear me? It's Dr. Reed. You're okay. You're safe." Her eyelids, heavy with sedation, fluttered, like a butterfly testing its wings after a storm. They opened slowly, unfocused, confused. They scanned the bright, unfamiliar room before finally landing on me. There was a long, silent moment of processing, and then a miracle. The corners of her mouth turned up into the faintest, most fragile smile. Her lips parted and a breathy, almost inaudible whisper escaped. "You didn't forget." Tears I didn't know I had been holding back for 48 hours finally broke free. They streamed down my face, dripping onto my scrubs. I couldn't speak. I just clutched her hand, the one with the tiny heart drawn on it, and nodded, a sob catching in my throat. She was back. The promise was kept. Lily's recovery was long, but it was a miracle in motion. Every day she grew stronger. The ECMO was removed, then the ventilator. She took her first steps. She ate her first strawberry. The day she was discharged from the hospital, the sun was shining just as it had been the day I met her. Sarah and David hugged me, their tears now of unadulterated joy. Lily, now buzzing with energy, ran up to me and wrapped her small arms around my legs. "Thank you for keeping your promise," she said, looking up at me. I knelt down, just as I had that first day, my eyes level with hers. "Thank you, Lily," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for making me promise. You reminded me that our job isn't just about fixing hearts. It's about honoring the trust that is placed in us. You never gave up on me." She grinned, a full, radiant 8-year-old grin. "I knew you'd come through. You had my heart on your hand." She skipped away to her parents. leaving me standing there. I looked down at the back of my hand. The marker heart had long since faded, washed away by countless scrubbings. But I didn't need to see it to remember. It was etched somewhere far deeper now. It was a permanent reminder that sometimes the most powerful force in medicine isn't found in a textbook or a vial. It's found in a promise, and it's a force that can truly defy death.